Hello and welcome to In Touch with Durham County. I'm your host, Deborah Craig-Ray, Chief Communications Officer. We're coming to you today virtually as we're making some changes in our studio. We do have two exciting guests joining us today. In our first segment, we have with us Derek Bowens, Durham County's Director of Elections. He will talk with us about recent court changes that have impacted voting in North Carolina, the upcoming municipal elections, and much more. State law notes that each city and county in North Carolina is required to appoint an attorney to serve at its pleasure and to be its legal advisor. In our second segment, we'll hear from the new Durham County Attorney, Al Andrews, who has been selected by the Board of County Commissioners and joined us in the new year. Welcome back to the show, Derek. I know you've been here a few times. We always look forward to having you.
And thank you for having me, Deborah. Absolute pleasure to be here with you again, as always.
And you've got a lot going on.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so. Yep, quite a
Yep.
bit.
Yeah, you've done a few things since we had you last. So first of all, tell our viewers about your primary roles and responsibilities as Durham County's Director of Elections.
Sure. So the Director of Elections, in my case, I was appointed here in Durham County in 2017 by a 5-member Board of Elections, and I've been in the role ever since. I am overseen by a 5-member board still today that delegates to me administrative responsibilities for the Board of Elections, which essentially everything is under their purview as an appointed board. My responsibilities include overseeing a staff of 10 full-time individuals that handle things such as precinct operations, voter registration, absentee by mail balloting, early voting, so forth and so on. But ultimately, my job under the board's direction is to administer all elections, both countywide, local, national, federal elections for Durham County, and to make sure that those run as smoothly as possible.
And you do a wonderful job. So much so, you were actually able to go and testify before Congress very recently to just talk about the work that you do. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, it was quite a great experience. I was actually, yes, invited to speak before the U.S. Senate Rules and Administration Committee to give a local perspective on elections administration. And so we talked about things from consistent federal funding to local administration, which is something that's advocated for by the National Association of Counties. So we advocated for that, talked about the security of the 2022 general elections, and also protecting election workers and some of the things that need to go in place to ensure that these defenders of democracy feel secure in the work that they're performing. But it was an excellent time, and it was great to represent Durham on a national stage to talk about this critical issue.
Well, that's really fantastic. And I did have a chance to watch that. And you did an outstanding job sharing that information.
Thank you.
So there's a lot going on in our state. Very recently, there were some rulings by the North Carolina Supreme Court related to voting. As I recall, there were about 3 of them that will impact voting. So talk to us about those 3 rulings, if you don't mind.
Sure, yes. So we did have some North Carolina Supreme Court rulings that were very big, big impact on elections administration in North Carolina. The one that is most visible and the one that most people are most interested in is photo identification implementation. So the North Carolina Supreme Court did overturn a ruling by the previous North Carolina Supreme Court with respect to photo identification in North Carolina, which was first implemented actually all the way back in 2013 and has been through several levels of litigation. And then in 2018, North Carolina voters actually, via constitutional amendment, voted in support of having photo identification. Subsequent to that, a bill was passed by the General Assembly to essentially effectuate that vote by a majority of voters in our state. And then it was wrapped up in additional litigation. So now we have an official ruling or reassessment by the new Supreme Court of North Carolina, which puts photo identification in place effective immediately. So we are currently working on getting our photo ID issuance machines working again,
Mm-hmm.
preparing materials, working with the State Board of Elections to have everything we need for photo ID rollout. So that was one of them, and that's a big one.
Yeah.
The second was with regard to felon voting rights,
Mm-hmm.
which reverted back to standards prior to 2020, which means that anyone who has been convicted of a felony must complete their probation, parole, post release supervision, or pay any fines associated with that felony before their rights can be restored for the purposes of, or the citizenship rights can be restored for the purposes of voting. Previously, there was a ruling from a case called Community Success Initiative versus Moore, I believe, where felons could register if they were not incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a second thing. Of course, third is redistricting. So we could see some new NC House and congressional maps before the December candidate filing period ahead of 2024. But we'll have to wait and see on that to see what the General Assembly does. But they have the right now under the
Yeah.
Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah. So quite a bit of change that came forward with that ruling, with those rulings, I should say.
Yeah.
So tell us, since we're on photo identification, tell us how voters can get a free photo ID card from your office.
Sure. So we are currently working to get our photo ID issuance machines fired up again. We started, I believe, in 2019. We were actually in the process of beginning to issue them. We even did 6 outreach events, 4 in English and 2 that were in Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
as a part of the bill that was passed. It required some outreach initiatives between the state and the counties. But to your direct question, as soon as we get these machines working and in conjunction with some state board of elections data that we have to pull in to print the cards, registered voters can come to the board of elections office and actually receive a free photo identification card issued by our office that they can use for voting purposes.
Okay. And have you already been getting calls about that?
We haven't gotten calls yet. We have gotten some inquiries about, when are we going to put out information about photo ID
Mm-hmm.
implementation. We do have laws that, obviously govern that from the 2018 legislation that are in Chapter 163 of our statutes. But we're waiting for further guidance from the state board before we really jump out there and begin to push forward with photo identification outreach to our community.
Certainly, we understand that. So now let's talk about the upcoming municipal election. What contest will be on the ballot this year?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of elections coming up this year for the 2023 municipal elections. We'll have an October 10th primary election for the city of Durham, assuming enough candidates file requiring a primary. And then subsequent to that, we'll have a November 7th municipal general election. The offices for the city of Durham, which are relevant to the vast majority of voters in for these municipal elections this year, will be our at-large city council seats. All of those will be up, and so will the office of the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
For other municipalities, such as the town of Chapel Hill, the town of Morrisville, the town of Cary, there will be elections for those as well for residents that live in the city or in the Durham County side of those municipalities. So
Yeah.
that's what we're looking for this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know the other sort of big news around your office is that we've had some polling place changes, some precinct changes that have affected many Durham County voters. How has that information been getting out?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. The board actually earlier this year approved some precinct adjustments to either reduce the size of some of our larger polling places or consolidate a couple of polling places where the registered voter count could accommodate a consolidation. So precincts 30-1, 33, and 35.3 were split in order to create two new precinct lines for each of those previously existing boundaries. And then we consolidated precincts 48 and 39. All of the voters that are affected by that change will receive a voter card in the mail from the Board of
Mm-hmm.
Elections with their new polling place. And a brief explainer about why they're getting those cards. We're also planning to send those out on yellow card stock so that
Okay.
it's clearly visible to voters once they come in the mail. And of course, we'll continue to do outreach up until the first election that's in effect, which will be this October 10th election.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely in full effect, and we'll be planning more outreach beyond the mailing and a general ad in the paper.
Outstanding, outstanding. So you all have, I understand, a new facility being planned. Can you share a few details about that? Because I know you've been looking for space for a while.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so we're really excited. Our county, very grateful to our county commissioners, have decided, to invest in the shops at Hope Valley, and we will be occupying the Kroger box, a former Kroger store, in that cluster of shops. Once the contract is finalized, of course, we'll be planning to move in there next year, probably at around May, so that we're there well ahead of the 2024 general election, which is going to be a huge election, maybe the largest in our history.
Oh, yeah.
So we're looking forward to being in a consolidated facility to better serve the citizens of Durham County, residents of Durham County, and just to create a substantial amount more operational efficiency, so we're not between 2 and 3 and 4 sites to execute elections.
Great, great. We're looking forward to that. Now, you mentioned 2024. I know you all are already preparing for the presidential election. They call it the big one. What are you doing now to get ready for next year's major election?
Absolutely. So part of it is, the move certainly into the new facility. That's going to just give us way more operational efficiency and space to really serve our voters by, having more workers, by having more space to be able to conduct more training classes with our poll workers, to have an early voting site at the
Hmm.
Board of Elections, which we haven't had in some years due to space constraints in our current
Right.
location. So that will, of course, I would say over 100 parking spaces at this new place is really going to be great for our voters. In addition to that, we've requested in our upcoming budget, which we're thankful to the county manager for including this in her requested budget, 2 new positions. One is a public outreach specialist that will help get out into our community and advocate for voting, and educate people on the voting process, which is really critical in, kind of this state of disinformation that we've seen since 2020. In addition to that, we're asking for a new election specialist to handle our front desk management so that we can handle more customers. So really big budgeting. Will soon be going into early voting plans for the 2024 primary, and soon after that, the 2024 general election. There's some legislation out there that we're watching that could affect some of those things. But there's a lot of planning. Planning for 2024 started on November 9th, 2020, which was the day after
I
the
hear you.
general election. So
Yeah,
everything we do is pushing towards that, but also not, diluting the importance of municipal elections, where we really want people to begin to turn out and have a voice during those events.
very good. So we're about out of time. How can our residents help your team?
The greatest thing you can do for us is vote. We want you to vote. 2023, the city invests a lot of money in conducting municipal elections, likely over $800,000 this year just to conduct the October municipal primary and the municipal general election, as estimated by the Board of Elections, which they
Hmm.
reimburse the county for. So please go out and vote. Let's get these numbers up. Let's get to 40 or 50% of eligible residents, not 10 to 15 or 15 to 20. We really would like to see numbers go up. So that's what you can do for us, is come out and vote, exercise your right, and just participate. That's what we ask.
Wonderful. So how can people get in touch with you?
Sure. So you can contact our office by phone at 919-560-0700. You can also come down to our office at 201 North Roxborough Street, Durham, of course, Durham, 27701. Or you can email us at elections@dconc.gov, And we also have a great website at decovotes.com. So you can reach us through any of those avenues, and we'll be more than happy to assist you.
Well, Derek, we just thank you again so much for what you and your team do for Durham County. We appreciate you being on the show and sharing this information. And certainly, we're your partner in helping to get the good word out.
Yes, you guys are always awesome, Deborah. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Well, we're going to take a short break. And when we return, our new Durham County Attorney, Al Andrews, will join us. We'll see you on the other side.
I have family members who I care about deeply, and they have given me reasons as to why they don't want to get the vaccine. Many of them are young, and I tell them about my pandemic experience, and I have to account for every death in Durham County. And I let them know that this vaccine is safe, it's effective, it's not going to impede your way of life, it's not going to stunt your swag, if you will. If anything, it's going to make you healthier, and you should get the vaccine as soon as possible.
Welcome back to In Touch. Joining us for this segment is Durham County Attorney Al Andrews. Welcome to Durham County and welcome to the show, Al. We're so happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Deborah. It's great to be here.
Wonderful. Let's start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself to help our viewers get to know you. Are you a native of North Carolina?
So I was born on a military base in Alabama, but I've lived in North Carolina all my life. And I grew up in Martin County, a little community called Robertsonville. I left there and headed off to college in Washington, D.C. at Howard and back in the state at Chapel Hill for law school. After I got out of law school, I began a military career as a U.S. Army Judge Advocate General Officer to JAG officers and attorney, and enjoyed serving, served out in the Pacific. And then I came back to North Carolina, and I've worked in several different governmental capacities. I've worked for 6 different local governments and state government, and now I'm here with Durham County. So I really look at this as the culmination of my career and looking very much forward to learning and growing and serving the good people of Durham County.
Well, we're again just so excited to have you here. So I think you began on January 1st. How are things going so far?
Things are going well. I certainly had a learning curve to become familiar with the county as a geography, the county as an organization, and the people here. But everyone's been so welcoming and warm-hearted. It's very much helped. I've got a great staff, and I've gotten to know them. And together, we want to work as a team to do all the things that are needed and expected of us.
So I know you've done a lot of time in government, state government, local government. So becoming a county attorney, is that something that's unique? Does just passing the bar allow you to be able to do that job, or is it better to have experience in local government and areas like finance, open meetings, ethics, things like that? Does that help?
So this is not the type of career you can go into straight out of law school. You have a lot of basic foundational equipping, but you don't have the skill sets necessary to do this. Fortunately, having had, over 28 years in local and state government and some additional time in federal and military law, all of that has provided good foundational basis for me to follow. Working in the county is not dissimilar from working with municipalities or cities. It's just that counties have a little bit different jurisdiction and a little bit different role, whereas a city is a creation of the legislature and is organized by a charter. The county is essentially a division or subcomponent of the state. County boundaries are geographically fixed, whereas cities can use annexation. Counties work with 2 organizations that cities don't. That is the Sheriff's Department or Sheriff's Office, and also the school system. Yeah. And we fund those operations and work collaboratively on their very important missions. Counties are involved in public health, which is vitally important to the citizenry. And they also work in the social services arena, which of course is crucial in our society to look after those in our society who could use a little bit of assistance and direction and protection. And so counties are very much a sort of a glue operation that provides services to the citizens of both the unincorporated areas and the incorporated areas in the county.
So I know that you've talked about a lot of the divisions or departments rather in county government. So tell us a little bit about how your office is organized. What divisions do you have?
Sure. So the office has three major component areas. One area is risk management, which is involved in sort of assessing the risks the county has in its operations and providing insurance where needed, providing safety instruction to make what we do safer and that it will produce less liability. The other area that we have that's fairly important is what we call general civil law, which is where we advise the various departments of the county. We represent them, we provide training, we provide guidance, we answer questions that come up. We deal with a lot of matters that deal with the governance of the county, that deal with the missions of the departments, the contracting function, which is large, deeds, property acquisitions and sales, and a whole host of matters that deal with the day-to-day operations of the county proper, the kind of the front-facing part of the county, as well as, internal organizational departments like budget and finance. The largest area of this department deals with social services.
Oh, yeah.
So social services is probably the largest department of the county because of its wide-ranging mission. And I have attorneys here that provide direct representation and a high volume of in-court representation to that department. They handle different areas. One of the largest areas and most important areas is called AND, abused, neglected, and dependent juveniles or youth. There's also the child support area, which provides or deals with the legal operations that are necessary to ensure that children are provided support from their biological parents and, if necessary, from the state. And we also deal with adult protection issues and a whole host of issues that deal with delivering the social services function to the citizens. And my folks help them in any number of ways in the judicial system and in legal advising.
And how many employees do you have?
So right now we have 22 employees who cover and serve in that range of areas. And our staff includes attorneys like myself. It includes paralegals. It also includes legal secretaries. We have an office administrator who is a professional who makes sure all the things in and of the office work smoothly. And we also are bringing on some interns for the summer who are typically law students in the area looking to gain some exposure into local government law.
Yeah, and that's really important that we sort of open the door so that we're sort of training our next generation.
Absolutely. It's a profession that people can pursue and get into. Typically, you've done something else in your career. You find out about this line of work. It seems to be to your liking and you explore it. But it's important, like in any profession, that we sort of maintain the pipeline by instilling a little bit of interest in students, both law students and undergrads, that if they have an idea of public service, and this is the epitome to me of public service, you're really helping the people directly or indirectly. Now, while I am not the personal attorney for Durham County citizens, if they have private legal matters, I can't handle those for people. I help by helping the elected body, the Board of County Commissioners, and by helping those who manage, run, and operate the county. And that helps them to deliver quality services to the citizens. We make decisions all the time about what's best for the county as a legal organization, but also what's best for the county as a real entity and fabric and piece of fabric of society. We provide affordable housing or in that space. We do economic development, which brings jobs and opportunity to the community. They help with our tax base, which in turn helps us fund all the various operations that are there. And though we directly fund the school system, we also assist, fund, and direct the community college that's located here in Durham, which is critically important as a sort of training ground for our next set of leaders and the people who will guide the county as we move forward into now the mid 2000s and beyond.
Yes, yes. So I know at times your office, the county attorney's office, might have to contract with other legal counsel. I know that's happened over the years for certain things. What types of circumstances would be involved in order for you all to maybe go out and get a different group or someone else that's legal counsel to represent the county?
Very good question, Deborah. So I equate this sort of response, and I'm going to make it relate to people. Just like you have your primary care or family physician who you go to see for a range of matters, there are times in life where you may need a specialist, a cardiologist, a nephrologist if you have a kidney issue, an internal medicine specialist, maybe a dermatologist, maybe a surgeon, maybe you have orthopedic issues, you need a knee surgery or what have you. While your primary care physician knows something of those areas and can certainly help you, you go to specialists for special needs. Same in the law. You know, we are generalists. We handle the lion's share and the breadth of things that the county needs and provides all kinds of services. But when you get into litigation, for instance, litigation in America has become very, very specialized and often technical. And you need the equivalent of surgeons or litigators, as we call them, to handle certain matters that the county gets involved in, particularly in civil litigation. And there are specialist attorneys who are out there who night and day do that kind of work, and they're best equipped to assist us. Now, we manage whatever the matter is. If it's litigation, we'll manage it. If it's an acquisition of land like we're involved in the county so that we can increase the space that's available for our Board of Elections, or whatever we're doing, we in this office will kind of oversee and deploy outside legal counsel resources where they are needed. But we do this collaboratively with our partners in the legal community to ensure that the county gets the best service and that we get the best protection of our dollars or return on our investment. And so we work hand in hand, and it creates a great result for the citizens. And that's why we use outside counsel sometimes.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll have to have you come back on again soon.
Thank you, Deborah. I very much enjoyed it, and I look forward to it.
All right. Well, that wraps up today's show. Thank you so much for watching. From all of us at Durham County Government, have a wonderful day and be well. We'll see you next time on In Touch with Durham County. Cheers.